live as we speak.
All right, it is about 9:01, and I will call to order the June 1st, 2022 meeting of the Environment and Land Use Committee. Start with a roll call of committee members. Kellen Nelson, District 14 Chair.
Randy Severson, Livestock Producer Member.
Riley Foltz, District 11.
Stacy Klein, District 2.
Dave Larson, District 15.
Tony Munson, Town Association Rep.
Andrew Todd, District 5.
Mark?
Mark Carlson, Trempealeau County Department of Land Management.
Verge Gamera, Department of Land Management.
Charmaine Anderson, County Conservationist.
Mike Kornman, DLM Director.
Okay, I certified that open meeting law requirements have been met with proper posting. Before we get, well, let's we have a 19-item agenda. Look for a move to adopt. Motion Foltz, second Munson. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Before we get any further, we have a new county conservationist on board. I would like to invite Charmaine to introduce herself to us.
Thank you. So my name is Charmaine Anderson. I am originally from Melrose, Wisconsin. My family were dairy farmers. We farmed for 24 years in Melrose. I went to UW River Falls to get my degree in conservation, and a few years later I went down to Illinois to get my master's in biology with a fisheries emphasis at Western Illinois University. After that, I was employed with the Illinois DNR and worked with invasive carp and other invasive species, and so then after that I came back home, so I'm glad to be here.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Next, we'll move on to item 5, adoption of minutes from our May 4th regular meeting.
I'll make a motion to adopt.
Okay, motion to adopt. Do we have a second from Klein? All in favor of adopting May 4th meeting minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carried. So we will call to order our first public hearing at 9:04, and this is for land use change or rezone from exclusive agriculture to EA2 to commercial. Someday LLC, owner Jamie and Heather Back, petitioner Independence, Wisconsin, town of Arcadia. Randy, would you read our notice?
To all interested parties, you are hereby given notice that a public hearing before the Trempealeau County Environment and Land Use Committee is scheduled for Wednesday, June 1st, 2022 at 9 a.m. in the county boardroom of the courthouse, 36245 Main Street, Whitehall, Wisconsin. The purpose of the hearing requested by Someday LLC landowner Jamie and Heather Back, petitioner Independence, Wisconsin, is to request a land use change rezone from exclusive Ag 2, EA2, to commercial on approximately 2.52 acres, more or less, to use the house existing on the parcel as an office for Hanson Auction Group. Located in the northeast quarter of the northwest quarter, all in Section 15, Town 21 North, Range 9 West, Town of Arcadia, Trempealeau County, Wisconsin, parcel 004-00666. Trumpealeau County invites you to join this meeting as follows. To provide public comment on these hearings, please call 715-538-1770. Your attendance and comments are encouraged at this hearing. If you are unable to attend and have any questions, please call Verge Gamera with the Department of Land Management at 715-538-1916 or email at verge.gamera@county-trempealeau, Wisconsin, U.S. If you are unable to attend and desire to submit a written comment, please send your written comment to the Department of Land Management, P.O. Box Whitehall, Wisconsin 54773, or email to vergegamroth@County, Trempealeau, Wisconsin, US. Please know that written comments will be read at the public hearing up to 250 words. All written comments must include the name and address of its author and the request that the letter be read at a particular meeting date. Any special interest groups or expert witnesses will be allowed 20 minutes to give a presentation and must register at least 1 week prior to the meeting date by calling Verge Gamroth of the Department of Land Management at 715-538-1916. Sincerely, Verge Gamroth, Department of Land Management.
Okay, thank you, Randy. Next, I'd like to have an overview.
First, I'd like to acknowledge Jamie Back, who is here representing Sunday. Jamie, you want to come to the table here in case the board has any questions? If you'll notice on your screen here, we're looking at this parcel right here. This parcel was rezoned some years back. It also historically was the site of the Club 93, which was a nightclub years and years ago. We're actually looking to rezone this piece right here or make it all one solid piece. We want to rezone from exclusive ag to commercial in town of Arcadia. The piece to the south is already zoned commercial, as I explained. And the current house is to be used as an office building. Jamie's explanation was Someday LLC currently owns property located at N31952 State Road 93, Arcadia, Wisconsin, currently zoned residential, as well as property at N31874 State Road 93, Arcadia, Wisconsin, currently zoned commercial. We are requesting to use the parcel at N31952 State Road 93, Arcadia, as an office for the Hanson Auction Group. The house currently on the property will be remodeled for office space. The hours of operation at the current location in Independence are 8 to 4:30, which would remain the same. The expectation is to have 3 to 5 employees utilizing the office. The intent is to utilize the lot that is currently zoned commercial as a lot to be utilized for online auctions. The adjoining landowners were notified, and the hearing was published 2 consecutive weeks, 10 days prior to the hearing in the paper on May 11th and May 18th. I received no correspondence for or against the proposal. The town clerk was notified, and we do have a letter from the town. The future land use, according to the Town of Arcadia Land Use Plan, calls for exclusive Ag 2. And as I explained, the property to the south was commercial for quite some time. So that's all I have for you, unless Jamie has something he wants to add.
Yeah, Jamie, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I just appreciate you guys taking a look at this, so it's pretty cut and dry what we're looking to do.
Sure. Okay. We do have one person who is registered to offer public comment, and he wishes to testify in favor, and that'd be Ed Milczewski. Would you like to come up, Ed? And
Yeah, I'm in favor of zoning that commercial. Why it's a lot handier for the machinery to be at that parking lot, because people can tour it or inspect it before the auction. When they had it up at Value Implements, Value didn't want the machinery there until 2 or 3 days in advance, and then people didn't get to see it ahead of time. So I'm in favor of making that residential house commercial.
okay. Thank you, Ed. Is there anyone here from the public who would like to offer testimony? If you're watching at home, you can call 715-538-1770. Let's see. Is there anyone who wishes to offer any public comments? If not, Verge, would you read the letter from the town?
Letter is dated April 29th. The Town of Arcadia Board of Supervisors was informed by Jamie Back that he is requesting a parcel of land along State Highway 93 to be rezoned from agricultural to commercial. The Town of Arcadia Board of Supervisors unanimously passed a motion at their April 27, 2022 board meeting stating that they support this request. Sincerely, Barb Tock.
Thank you, Verge. Is there anyone who wishes to offer any public comment on this rezone? If not, I'll close the public hearing at 9:12 and look for a motion to proceed.
I make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, motion Foltz, second Larson. Any further discussion from the committee? Any questions?
Just looking at this, why would not a conditional use permit leaving it in ag be a good thing instead?
Because he wants to run a business out of it, an office business.
And you can't do that with a conditional use permit?
Well, when there's retail sales and so forth involved, typically the description for that district is to rezone it to commercial.
I believe for businesses, if there's a home-based businesses in exclusive ag, then there's an opportunity to do the conditional use. Is that right, Mark?
Yes, but the home has to be, there has to be a home there.
Right.
It either has to be an accessory to the home. In this case,
Right.
there is no home there, so.
Right.
so.
Okay. Any other discussion from the group?
I got a question for Jamie. On parking, are you gonna have them park, where are they parking? Because they can't really park along the road, because the last time you had the auction, they parked on the road.
Well, it's an online auction. Okay. So we do not have live auctions, or the intent is not to have live auctions there. We did have a online auction there, and it worked really convenient with the driveways, the people that come in off of Highway 93, park in the lot to load, do their stuff, and then exit from the auction, from the pickup of the auction. So I agree, yeah, it's, does not work for
So this is
parking.
basically, you want it for an online only,
Yes.
basically?
Yeah, and then mainly, the office, we have 3 to 5 realtors.
Yep.
And then a home base for just convenience of having the online auction as an office to
Yeah.
be there together.
That makes sense. I just wanted to clarify that it's not gonna be an auction that people go to
Yes,
park.
great
Okay.
question, yes.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it's a pretty logical plan, really. Any other discussion from the committee? If not, I would call for a vote. All in favor of approving the land change rezone from EA2 to commercial, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Thank
So
you for your time.
Yeah, this will go for, to county board in June.
June
For
20th.
final approval, but, should be okay.
That date is,
June 20th.
20th. So, and you don't need to be there to, or you can. It's up to you.
perfect. No, that's fine.
So,
thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jamie. Next, we have item number 7, which is a public hearing for a conditional use permit for utility facility from Riverland Energy Co-op. Randy, would you read the notice?
Yes. You are hereby given notice that the following conditional use permit will be before the Environment and Land Use Committee on Wednesday, June 1st, 2022, at 9:05 a.m. in the county boardroom of the courthouse, 36245 Main Street, Whitehall, Wisconsin. The hearing requested by Riverland Energy Cooperative petitioner, Riverland Energy Cooperative landowner, Arcadia, Wisconsin, is to consider a conditional use permit for a utilities facility. It'd be a electrical substation located in the northwest quarter of the southwest quarter, section 22, town 19 north, range 9 west, in the town of Trempealeau, Trumpealeau County, Wisconsin, parcel 028-00296010. Your attendance and comments are encouraged at this hearing. If you are unable to attend and have any questions, please call Mark Carlson with the Department of Land Management at 715-538-1919 or email at mark.carlson@countytrempealeau.wisconsin.us. If you are unable to attend and desire to submit a written comment, please send your written comment to the Department of Land Management, Post Office Box 67, Whitehall, Wisconsin 54773, or email to mark.carlson@county.trempealeau.wisconsin.us. Please know that written comments will be read at the public hearing up to 250 words. All written comments must include the name and address of its author and the request that the letter be read at a particular meeting date. Any special interest groups or expert witnesses will be allowed 20 minutes to give a presentation and must register at least 1 week prior to the meeting date by calling Mark Carlson at the Department of Land Management at 715-538-1919. Sincerely, Mark Carlson.
Thank you, Randy. I don't know that I stated the time when I called this public hearing to order, but we will go with 9:17. Thank you. Okay, so Verge, do you have an overview? Or Mark does the, sorry, apologize.
We were approached by Riverland Energy for proposed substation under our utilities facilities. It's a conditional use requirement. I mean, there's really been no conditions put on these types of things other than the standard fare of what's required for that, for fencing and setbacks. All the neighbors were notified. It was put in the, published in the paper. I do have a letter from the town of Trempealeau. Other than that, there was no input on it whatsoever. And there is a representative here, Tim Holton, if he wants to add anything to it.
Okay, Tim, would you like to take a seat up here? Is there anything you'd like to add, comments right so far?
No, there isn't.
Okay.
Good morning. No, it's
Right.
pretty straightforward. We just want to
Yep.
build a substation on Trowbridge.
Perfect. Okay, at this point, I'm going to call for any public comments. If anyone is interested at home, they can call 715-538-1770. And I'm calling for any public comment on this conditional use permit. Mark, I know you said you had a letter from the town. Would you
Yes,
read that?
It was dated April 14th. This letter is written with reference to a request by Riverland Energy Cooperative to build a substation on lands located on Trowbridge Lane in the town of Trempealeau. The board has no objection to the building of the substation. Sincerely, Town of Trempealeau, Rick Nimitz.
Okay, thank you, Mark. If anyone else wishes to testify or offer public comment on this permit, you can call 715-538-1770. Just about gave out my cell phone number out of habit. But I don't want that. No one, I'm not answering that. So we have nobody registered to offer comment on this. With no public comment, I'm going to close the public hearing at 9:19. Look for and entertain a motion. Motion from Todd. Second from Foltz. Any discussion or questions from the committee?
Okay. Can we clarify
Yes.
either whether the motion is to approve or decline or whatever?
That's, yeah, good point. Point of order. Good point. Thank you. Yeah, still second. So, any discussion or questions from the committee?
I wouldn't mind just a little overview, just like how big and what it's going to, help in the.
Yeah, so what we did is we have a 2-acre site there. When it's all completed, we'll have approximately a 1/4 acre in the fence. The location that we're looking at here right now is directly between, we have Arcadia substation and Centerville substation. We've got a east-west and a north-south feeder on Trowbridge. So what we're doing is essentially putting it on a 4-way stop. So it's a perfect location. We've had this in the work plan for probably 10 years. And the additional loads and needs finally came to fruition, so we need to add a substation.
Thanks.
Does that answer it?
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Very good answer. Any other questions or comments from the committee? If not, I will call for a vote on the motion. All in favor of approving the conditional use permit, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. So you are good to go.
Very good, thank you.
Next, we have item 8, closed session. Who would like to read the appropriate language?
Typically, there's a
Right
motion
bottom.
made,
Do I-
and you read what is on the,
Anyone can,
you
if
read
you want
what's on
to.
the
Just do I
agenda
just
there.
read
Read that
To go into
verbatim.
closed session.
Okay.
Move to close.
All right.
Yep.
Convene into closed session per Wisconsin statutes 19.85, sub 1, sub G, to confer with legal counsel concerning strategy to be adopted with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved regarding a conditional use permit application.
Okay, yeah, motion made. Do we have a second? Second, Klein. We'll do a voice vote on this. Todd? Yes or no? Closed session?
Yes.
Munson? Larson?
Yes.
Klein? Yes. Foltz?
Yes.
Yes.
Peterson? Nelson? Yes. All right, thank you. All right, so now that we're live again, we have no action to take on anything from closed session, so I will move on to item 11, which is discussion/action regarding a conditional use permit for Benjamin Vasquez, petitioner, Arcadia, for athletic field. Do we have motion from the committee? Motion to approve? A motion to approve, Todd. Full second. All right, now we'll open it up for discussion. And we had asked some of the visiting family if someone would be willing to give us a 2 or 3 minute. So if you'd want to come up to the podium here, that way. Put you out on center stage.
Is it on?
Yes.
Do you want to ask those questions, or do you
So,
just want me? I don't know.
the two,
what you want me
two
to do.
questions that the committee would like discussed would be whether any attempts were made at
Sorry.
connecting with the family and adjoining landowners, to work through this item per our discussion last July. And also the second question, are there any conditions that would make this permit amenable to neighboring landowners?
Yep, he has not contacted any of the landowners or the landowners that are here. I
Okay.
can't speak for the other ones. And then, right now, they don't want any conditions whatsoever because after the last meeting, there were some stipulations put on, and he chose not to follow those already. April 9th, he had about 38 cars there. There was a scrimmage of a couple soccer teams. So to me, that wasn't, or to us, sorry, that wasn't personal use. And basically, his request was based on misinformation to the landowners. He just said a soccer field during COVID. So that was really misleading for them because we do love children. And I mean, I put a football field in my backyard for my kids, but yeah. And also misinformation to the town because he said they had the landowner's approval and he said a soccer field. I'm like, oh, okay, little soccer field, awesome. So, but right now, yeah, they're not willing to accept that because Ben even said, I didn't know I was shut down because they had that and the neighbors approached them. And Ben said, oh, I didn't even know there was stipulated. I didn't know I was shut down.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Is there any questions from the committee? Any discussion that we need to have?
How do you feel if that was approved, how it affect your resale value of that area up there?
we'll totally diminish it. I mean, it's a dead-end road, and you go on a dead-end road in outskirts of town for that reason, to have privacy. And right now, they have cars going by, they have people touching their horses. I mean, it's like use. I mean, that's not like use. I'm not saying the soccer field's bad, but it should be somewhere else. I mean, it's a good program for kids. I'm a teacher. I mean, I'd go watch them, but not in that setting. I mean, I live in the town of Arcadia, and it scares me that if this is approved, what next? Who's the next one that thinks they don't have to follow the law? I mean, we were talking to the town that he gave misinformation, and he didn't even get a slap on the hand. He still gets to do what he wants, and I know there's not precedence in the ordinance and stuff, which is unfortunate, but I guess what's it teaching the kids to do that? I don't know. It's like a football. If you do something illegal, you get the touchdown called back. He didn't do this the right way.
Okay. Anything else?
I got the question.
Yep.
So if we do a condition on it and we put, we can do whatever we want on a condition, what if we limit it to like 10 people? Would you guys be willing to accept that?
Right now,
Because then
yeah,
it
let's just say-
limits no more than 10 people being there in that facility, because then we could even say 5, just, because then it would really shut it down. Because then
No,
you
yeah,
can't have that
yeah.
many people there. If he
No,
has
I
more than that,
understand.
he breaks the conditions, and
So then what happens then? Because he already broke the conditions from the last time. That's our fear, because
Yep.
he acts a little untouchable to us.
well,
I mean,
then
right now
he would
we're.
get slapped. He would get fines, because he would be breaking the conditions of the.
And, I mean, in our opinion, I just think he needs to start over, because he gave the town misinformation. Their letter was based on a big fat lie, to be honest. And I just think he needs to start over and do it the right way. Because right now, he did it the wrong way, and even if you say 10 people, he's still getting, oh, I still got it. Not saying winning or losing, but I
No,
mean,
no, yeah.
I mean, my parents have been there for years. I mean, they don't even want to go outside. You know what I mean? Where,
I'm just trying to help.
no,
both sides.
and I
understand.
see both sides, because I don't want to look at my little student and say, oh, we shut you down.
Yep.
I'm not saying that, because I do love kids, and
Oh,
I'm, oh,
absolutely.
how was the game? You know what I mean? But then I'm like, that's not fair.
Yeah.
He did it wrong. I mean, and I told him, move it somewhere, roll it up and move it.
It's unfortunate that we're even having to have this discussion.
No, it
We
is,
really
yeah,
boiled all
it is,
down.
yeah. And if it was straightforward, like, I mean, but to me, that's what we should be teaching our youth,
Yeah.
is to be honest and to be that way. You know, where he just, he even said, well, I don't have to get any permits, it's my land. I'm like, oh, come on, buddy. I mean, he's not a dumb person, he's very intelligent.
Yep,
I mean, very intelligent.
okay. Are there any other questions from the committee? If not, what is the committee's wish?
I would do the motion to deny.
Since there's already a motion pending, you would either vote yes to approve it or no to not approve it, so then you would just vote on the current motion pending.
Okay,
Yep.
so, well, I guess we'll call the vote then for the motion to approve. All in favor, say aye. All opposed?
No.
Same sign? Okay,
No.
so motion did not carry, we did not approve it, so that is that the same as denying?
Correct.
So, no further action will be taken on this. He has no permit that's valid to use, so.
So going forward, then, if he doesn't, what should they do? Because even, I mean, somebody said call the cops. I mean, those little kids are going to be scared right now with the shootings and all that. We're not trying to punish the little kids at all. We're trying to say, Ben, you did it the wrong way. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
Give us a call.
Okay.
Give us a call as soon as you can, when the event's going on.
What if it's on the weekend? What do you want us to do? I know you don't want to.
Document.
Just document.
Take pictures, take as many pictures as you can.
Well, he put up a big security fence now, and they just said has some big something coming in. So so neighbors can't see. So, I don't know. Yeah.
So,
Well, there's potentially some other options there
Okay.
that I'll discuss with staff.
Or maybe if it's
offline.
suspicious,
This
write
is-
it down or something.
basically,
And
this
just-
was first step.
Yeah. No, thank you very
And
much.
then-
I'm just
and
asking
then-
what they should do.
He does not have a valid permit, so. Okay,
All right, well, I thank you very much. I know this has been a pain in your sides for a long time, so
And
thank you.
yours too, so- and we recognize
We
it.
appreciate it. Thank
So,
you.
Okay, at this point, we'll move on to item 12. Discussion on landlocked parcels and road frontage requirements. So, this is off of last month's meeting.
Yeah, this issue came up during a public hearing regarding other recommendations to the code. This is an opportunity we've done a little bit of research. And it comes down to the road frontage requirement. The whole idea behind the road frontage requirement is landlocked parcels are highly undesirable. It's not orderly development. I don't know anyone who likes to would want to purchase a landlocked parcel, because if you can't access it, you can't use it. So the way, for many years, we've dealt with this is we had the requirement of any parcel that's created needs to have 100 feet of frontage on a public road. So that way you can access it, emergency services, it's orderly development, it's a useful split, lot split. There are some unique properties in the county behind railroads, including the parcels on your handout here. And they're all behind the railroad, and we have significant length of railroads in the county. There's probably several hundred acres of property that are affected by the railroad throughout the county. And most of those properties are zoned agriculture. And the challenge, if someone wants to split, is it really comes down to, you know, that railroad is blocking that access to a public road. So if we try to look at some other options to make that more viable, like say an easement to that public road via a railroad crossing, what we run into is we can't, through public policy and ordinance work, we can't make that connection happen because the railroad has the right to provide licensings for those crossings. So as soon as a landowner change, let's say a split is created and someone purchases that new parcel, the crossing rights that the railroad had with the previous owner go away, and that new owner has to apply to the railroad, and it's their discretion, the railroad's discretion on which to allocate it. So no matter what, even if we use easements as a tool to get access out to a public road, it doesn't guarantee access for that property. So we potentially go down a road of more landlocked parcels rather than less. So this is a situation that when you look at all these parcels behind the railroads, and we also have to think about behind the Buffalo River Trail, which was a railroad, but is now a trail because there's trail crossing issues to get permits from the DNR. Similar but a little different, but we have to think about those too. So there's all these access issues that even if we would allow a landlocked lot to be created, it still doesn't solve the problem of access and who would want to buy a landlocked process. So this is one of these things where there's not really a good policy. It's kind of what's the least bad option to deal with these. And these are always challenging issues to address. So on this map, I just kind of created this, and I could be wrong. I think this is the split that someone wanted to make. The person that spoke at the last meeting, and even with this, there's a crossing. Each dot is where there's an existing crossing, but if there's a new owner, they'd have to get an easement across other parcels to get to that crossing, and maybe the railroad gives them a license to cross the railroad tracks. So it really, the good thing, and one of our fears on the staff side of things is if parcels on the wrong side of the tracks get rezoned to say R20, which means 20 lots per acre, or 20 lots per 40, then suddenly we have all kinds of traffic trying to go across the railroad track, plus it's on an easement and a main, and a private road, and it just turns into a real mess. So there's not a lot of options here, and I guess I would break them down to one, do nothing and just let our current policies play out and let the Board of Adjustments deal with the unique circumstances. Another option would be, hey, create a narrowly defined option to allow easements to address splits up to the railroad crossing, but you need to know full well that that doesn't mean that parcel's going to have access to a public road. But we'd want to do that for as long as their egg properties and things like that. But there really isn't a real good way to address this issue. These railroad crossings are very unique, and the railroad calls the shots.
So it seemed to me the best way we can do it is to create a pathway for these type of properties to potentially follow. To me, my personal feelings are to allow the Board of Adjustment to take care of it. They've done that 2 times with the specific request here. They don't have a pathway which they can follow to.
The existing ordinance.
They have to follow, and they don't have any exemptions they can make. Whereas if we can find a way that we can word this isn't necessarily a unique circumstance. I mean, there are other properties that would be affected by this as well. To me, I'd like to see if we can find a way to make some sort of path so that they can be worked through. Maybe I'm alone in that feeling.
Something, some way, I'm not sure of the way.
Right.
Well, according to his last presentation, his hands aren't tied. He has offers from neighboring property, he just don't want to sell it to them. He has options, he just don't want to, it ain't good enough. I mean, property's only worth what somebody's willing to offer you.
Correct.
No matter what it's appraised for, what its value, what its use is. But to me, we're a county level, the state or the railroad controls that issue. We don't have a say in that 30-foot wide or 60-foot wide span.
Mm-hmm.
So that, I don't know how you get around that.
Mark, any comments?
Oh, not too much more, I guess. I mean, the one that we're talking about that went through the variance, that's his specific scenario. I mean, it could pan out for others in different scenarios, but theoretically, they're all abutting somebody. I mean, as far as abutting different pieces of property, and they could sell it to that adjoiner on them properties, So, I mean, I know the Board of Adjustment they just felt that it was their requirement to deny the variance because the ordinance states certain things. He did have other options in this case, probably similar in other cases. So they felt they needed to deny it, and they denied it twice, or they denied it and then they reheard, I don't know how it really panned out, but they basically heard it twice and they did not grant the variance. Because the letter of the variance, there's 3 criteria, all the 3 criteria need to be met for that variance to be granted. And, other options would probably null one of those steps. But it's probably going to come up eventually in other scenarios. He brought up the neighbor right there that eventually, and then there's all the people up in the northern part with the Buffalo River. There's some farms that own stuff all around it, but I don't know what the easy route would be. I mean, the easy way would be to try to figure out a way people could get around it, but I guess some of it's there for a reason. They don't want people to be landlocked. Easements are never a good idea unless you have one that's so ironclad that it's never going to be an issue. Or you just require that 100-foot of frontage to the track crossing, so you at least have access to that crossing, but then the crossing could be taken away from you. So,
But wouldn't that be an issue between the landowner and the railroad?
Yeah.
And not the county? So that's not necessarily our problem.
I mean, we just don't want people to, protect them from themselves, kind of, so to
Right.
speak. I mean, we're gonna say, oh yeah, you can go ahead and do that, and also say someone spends a fortune buying this land, and all of a sudden either the easement is, someone finds a loophole where they don't have to let these people access, or the railroad says, hey, we're not letting you through here no more, and then they're stuck with it, and then they'll turn around and say, well, you people let me do it, it's your fault for letting me do it, or something like that, but.
Well, isn't that kind of what Mike said already, that the permit license doesn't transfer with ownership?
As far as I know, it doesn't.
Reapply?
I mean, the easement would if it's written.
Yeah, an
right.
easement, but-
Because there's items with.
How are these
Who
listed?
maintains this easement? I mean, who, like, say the road gets all rooted up and, people fight over who's gonna maintain that access and.
You're talking about creating another Because you can't put an easement on railroad property.
No, we're talking about the property to the railroad, I guess.
But isn't that part of the easement of, in the contract of getting one, that's the debate?
Well, they gotta make it pretty specific. I mean, we've seen some pretty poor easements in our time here that
Oh.
just plain old, they're between us two, and all of a sudden us two aren't around anymore, and then it's null and void. You really gotta be careful with them. I mean, they,
Just general question, so the power from the, or of the railroads, is that more of a state, or is that federal? Like just, how does,
Private business.
private business, okay.
Historically, probably more on the federal level if there were going to be any regulations.
One of the suggestions I have is if they're gonna, like, say there's an easement that he wants to get there, they would have to contact the railroad company first before they can even purchase the property to see if they can get that, that use of crossing in the area that already exists, and then the easement can continue on. But that would be the first step before they even decide if they're gonna go to purchase it. They have to go through the railroad company first before they could even, so they can have the access.
Is that something that we can put into our zoning like that?
I was gonna
Yeah,
question
I
that
think
same thing,
would-
whether we could, because, first of all, would the railroad consider a request if you aren't the owner already?
I was gonna ask. I was just gonna say, we have multiple people talking, and, you know, in my recording, I'm gonna have a bunch of jumble, so one person can just.
Okay.
Oh, no, I understand where you're coming from, but it's to ask them if we do this. It's a question, not a, I'm requesting as a question, if we do this. It's not a, I'm going to do this, or we already did this, can I get it? And it's, you're asking permission ahead of time versus asking forgiveness.
You basically create a procedure how you would go about.
Yeah, it would be a
this.
procedure. You gotta go talk to the railroad company first with the intent to purchase.
It almost could it be the type of thing where the landowner that's trying to sell it has to do the groundwork?
Yeah.
You know, because I get what you're saying, and I definitely get your point, Tony, that there are other opportunities, you know, other adjoining, but its bottom line is his choice to make that or not. You know, that's choose to do that sale or not do that sale, and he's chosen. That's fine, but everybody has that right. But if we can find a pathway for which he has, okay, this is where you have to work out first, and put it on the seller at that point to work through the channels, the steps that need to be taken.
Because we did this last year, we had this problem. It wasn't with the railroad, but it was real estate, and some party wanted to sell 3 parcels off, and he did not have a right angle 100 feet of frontage to make 3 parcels. So it was only 2, and they weren't happy because they had 3 buyers and money down and this.
Calls I got on that one.
But yes, so I mean, it doesn't matter where it is, but now that we have cleared up some of the rules, the big issue is, yes, let the landowner then and the seller do their due diligence before they could sell that property. Would be our, protect us.
Is there anything that they can bring? So any kind of documentation that the crossing would remain intact or something along those lines to our, you know, I don't know, how can we?
I mean, I think like the language that you come up with should be specific to the railroad scenario, not
Right,
not
because
just
that's what
any
it pertains
scenario,
to.
I guess, you know.
No, this pertains with the railroad.
Railroad or ex-railroad or whatever however you want to word it. but
Right.
Not to other scenarios, like what
Parcels.
Tony mentioned with that person. They still would have to meet the requirements.
Correct, the current ordinance covers that.
Right.
We're just creating, yes, an
In the
ordinance
event that
pertaining
somebody
to
is-
railroad landlocked properties.
Yes. And
Right, or-
specifically to that.
Because you
issue.
can, because our ordinance covers everything from that point forward. It's just
And
the
we don't
railroad.
want to create landlocked properties. That is not our desire.
No, we are protecting the purchaser from unknown, that's what that ordinance is for.
Is basically make it so that everybody would be above board on it, including railroad, and see if that could work through or not. I'm not saying this would be easy. I could see this a real pain. But hopefully not necessarily in our office. If there be a way they can present, like, that they've done their due diligence, we have a way, a method.
I think if there was some wording that allowed us to do it, you know, it wouldn't be a problem with our department, you know. The only reason it's a problem is because the ordinance but states right in there that it has to be 100 foot of frontage, you know.
Okay.
And these properties are, you know, I know they have other options, but sometimes they're not feasible or whatnot, you know, it gives people a little bit more latitude with their properties, but still try to protect people unknowingly buying something with some strings attached that they're not aware of.
Sure.
Would it be very difficult to create a single exemption for landlocked by railroad properties as an exemption that some other option exists, right, without a lot of additional wording?
I think that's kind of what we're trying to come up with here as far as, it's just a matter of how the verbiage is written in that.
Right. I think, you know, we'd want to definitely make sure that it's narrow for these railroad properties, and I think we could put our heads together working with Rick to come up with a policy option. And if you guys want us to do that, you can direct us to kind of draft some legal language and bring that back. Typically, what we do, kind of like with this, the previous ordinance stuff, we'll bring that before you, we'll vet it before a public hearing to get it to the point where you feel comfortable, then post it for the public hearing, and then get the public comments. We kind of do a lot of homework before we put it out for public comment.
Are you looking for a motion to that effect, or just the discussion?
Yes.
I have one thing quick yet, but without the word, I mean, with the word exemption is pretty broad, and would we be better off saying, you know, to take under consideration? Because if you use the word exempt on every property.
I don't know that we would use the word exempt. I would say that we would bring back ordinance language to address
Yeah.
landlocked railroad parcels
Yeah.
and access. It's something to that bigger picture intent, what we're talking about here.
Okay, to deal with that, just by looking at the proposed property here, you have two marked permitted crossings now. Is that actually land, I mean, I don't know, would the railroad have to grant a new permit for an existing crossing, and would they?
Yeah, it's their call.
So that's their call, correct, so that
Put
brings it
back
back to the
on
landowner's responsibility before.
To work this out.
Out.
That's how you
That's,
say
I mean, basically what I was looking to clarify too, because, you know, what are the possibilities that they would grant another one, and then like you're talking about a pathway, so then that would be clear, okay, if you get that.
This is your.
Yeah.
They're probably not going to create a new crossing. It's going to be a license for a crossing at an existing crossing.
Right. So if they can work out their pathway that way.
That'd be the easement portion of it.
Correct, and then that has to be a really good easement, as opposed to the old handshake and type deal, so. Rick, I see you've got some interesting stuff. looks
Yeah,
like
I was just
there.
did a Google search quick, and it does talk about too, if a landowner's gonna buy something, then they do have to reapply for the permit to have the access across. And so that's one thing. With the easement aspect of it, I know when I built my first house too, I had to have an easement across my brother's property. We also had to have a driveway agreement where it did define who has to take care of maintenance, who does X, Y, and Z. You know, so those things could be written into whatever the process is, saying, in order for us to consider this, you have to do X, Y, and Z, and one of them could be, like, I'll call it a driveway agreement, it could be whatever you call it. So that way, there's no question, this is what this person's responsible for, this is what this person's responsible for. So I think there are ways to do it, just to put some extra parameters on there, because again, it is a special exception if you go that route, and so there does have to be some extra steps to go through that the owners want to do, so.
Okay.
But I think it can be done, but it can't be a guarantee, it's just a consideration.
Is it recorded on the deeds now, like some of these, it says floodplain to prevent R20s being proposed from this
Right.
now, or on the properties? On the deeds? I don't think it does
I
it?
don't think there's anything on the deeds.
Deeds,
with that
right, that's
necessarily.
yet. No.
I mean, easements would show up on your deed if you really look for it. I
Yeah.
mean, sometimes you can, sometimes you know there's one there, but it takes a little bit of research to find it sometimes. Sometimes it's a separate piece of item that isn't right on the deed, or, you know.
Yeah, I've got a
it
couple
makes
parcels that
reference
have
to
rolled
it.
up that way, yes.
But there's nothing on there about zoning districts or floodplain districts that I'm aware of, so.
Sure.
Because then that's why, when it'd be discovered is when they come to propose a land use change, then here or whatever, that's when it'd be discovered.
Okay. Okay, so do we have a consensus what we'd like the staff to do? You basically put together legal wording, what we try and make a pathway for.
I think we get we get where you want us to go, and we'll work on some language and bring that back to a future meeting.
I think that sounds like a good plan. So, with that said, I think we'll move on to item 13, Conservation Operations Report, discussion, possible action. Thank you, Rick. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Rick.
So,
See you later.
Conservation Operations Report. That's Charmaine not here now.
Charmaine's not here, and it's her second day on the job, so
Oh, she's real
we'll
fresh.
cut her some slack.
Yeah.
Just a couple things. We finished up our tree and shrub sale right at the end of April, beginning of May. We had over $18,000 in tree sales. And our total profit from the program was $3,342.22. That money goes into our DLM checking account, which is a specific account set up, and there's some histories with DAT cap and stuff into that, and that's specifically for information and education regarding youth education, and so it's a specific fund for that. And here also too, if we look back on our sales are pretty close. We had, let's see, last year in 2021, we had 120 orders. This year we had 128. So over the last 4 years, we're pretty consistent. 2018, there was 145 orders. So that was kind of more of the anomaly there. So we're pretty close where we were in the past. There's just some nuances in there regarding costs, regarding specific trees and things like that. But that was, we had a lot of comments that people really appreciate the tree and shrub program to improve their properties. A number of egg conservation projects are on the way, and we're working on those. And coming up here on your agendas in the past, we have our first cost share payment that's on the back. You'll be approving that later on here in the agenda. We already have staff doing site visits for projects in 2023. We've been getting nutrient management plans in. Number of plans in acreage are up from last year. So we've made improvements. Having more staff on hand has helped us work on that issue. And of course, our county conservation is on board, so those are big things there.
Very good.
Any questions?
On the tree and shrub program, number of trees about the same as normal, or how does that compare to past?
Let's see, trees sold in past years. We had 11,300 this year, 12,300 last year, so we're about
similar.
Yeah, and 2020 was down 9,000. So we're pretty close. 2020 seemed to be down other years, so we're somewhere between in the 11, 12,000 range.
Sure.
So.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Cost share payment request, discussion, possible action. So, are you gonna cover this today?
Sure.
Let's see, Becky.
Yeah, she may be out. Chimney Rock project, so we had some bluff restoration projects here. Reed usually goes out on those projects. So those are really key, unique properties out there where we get to help people out. And then, of course, the waterway was completed, and that's the cost share. And these cost share projects are usually 70-30 splits, with the county covering 70% of the cost.
Okay. Need a motion to approve the cost share payments.
I'll make a motion to.
Motion Severson, second from Larson. Any further discussion? Do we need a voice vote for this? It's just all budgeted. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. DLM Director Operations Report.
Permits are picking up. It's spring, early summer, so we've been busy in that area. And pout systems, and of course, onboarding new employees. We continue, I know it's part of a PTED committee, but I think it's good for everyone to know about. This is the 50th anniversary of Peachick Park. And so Dave Carlson, our Economic Development Coordinator, and Reed are working on a celebration, 50th anniversary celebration on September 24th. So we're working on those kinds of things for 50 years of the park.
Very good. And we are fully staffed at this
We are
point.
fully staffed, yes.
For the first time in,
Since fall of 2020.
very good.
I'm sure 3 people.
Okay, item 16, Board of Adjustment appointments. We have 2 terms expiring in June. And
Yeah, we need to forward on a couple names, and I think it's, unless anyone has any other names, committee names to suggest, we'll forward on Randy and, what was the other name? Do you remember? That was the existing member that was.
Is there any other names to pass on? If not,
So if you guys want to make that motion to forward those names on to the county board chair for
I'll
consideration.
make the motion to move those 2 names on to the full board.
Second.
okay, motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Now, any future agenda items that we would like to have brought before us? Okay, well, just keep on.
We just have the road frontage issue with railroad. That would be a
That
future
will
agenda.
continue, yep. Okay. And then we'll confirm our next meeting date, which is scheduled for July 6th. And we stick with the 9 o'clock time framework, okay? Or do you want to move a little earlier? I have no.
8:30 would work. Okay, I don't know.
Any concerns from anyone else in the group to move it to 8:30?
I think TV station's okay with 8:30. I don't hear them yelling from the other room. But I think,
We do have other meetings at 8:30.
yeah, so I think they're good
I think
with that.
8:30 is reasonable, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll plan on Wednesday, July 6th. I assume it's a Wednesday?
Yeah.
Should be,
Yeah.
yeah.
At 8:30 a.m. And- oh,
One last thing, I meant to mention this in my director's report. You should have in your email received some kind of background information on trainings, webinars, and information from Wisconsin Land and Water Association. It's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of complicated policy stuff. I just want to let you guys know as committee members, if you want to meet with me one-on-one over the phone or in person, you want to set up a meeting with me by phone in the evening, if that works for you, I'll make myself available to do that. And so I'll be, answer any questions to get into some of the details that you might want to know. So just reach out to me if you want to take advantage of that.
okay. Thank you, Mike. Okay, with that, we don't have anything else on agenda, so we will adjourn at 10:43.